So we're going to start in about 1 minute, if people could take their seats. Let's see here. Oh, at least it got quiet. All right, good morning. It's so great to see you all here. I know there have been some incredible issues with getting here, so I really appreciate that. So welcome to the 65th annual meeting of the Institute of Nuclear Materials Management. And this is our first in-person meeting in the United States since 2019. Yeah, really. Really. So it's wonderful to be together again, to reconnect colleagues, establish new connections, share ideas, and the latest developments in the field of nuclear and other radioactive material stewardship. And it's all of you who make it a success by supporting the Institute's stewardship mission. You know, across the world, we see really unprecedented challenges. With those challenges come opportunities and a chance to make a difference. They are far-reaching, including climate change, advanced reactors, nuclear weapons disarmament, Zaporizhzhia occupation, energy demands from data centers, artificial intelligence, and just so much more. And there's a broad and growing consensus that nuclear power plants are an ideal source of carbon-free energy, but cost and schedule can push the startup of units out to a decade and more for new light water reactors. Advanced reactors have this promise to address some of these shortfalls with, for example, mass production of units, load following, but safeguards and security are still challenges that need to be addressed. As disarmament talks stall and existing agreements are not renewed, the dangers of increased weapons inventories and the threats of peace are all at risk. There's great excitement over the promise of artificial intelligence, but the risks are yet to be understood, especially as AI capabilities enter our domains, and you can be sure they have already entered your domains and you've already actually interacted somehow with them. So we emphasize and promote the stewardship with the goal of a vision of secure and peaceful world. I believe that with conviction and commitment, we're up to that challenge, and I encourage all of you to not only meet these challenges, but engage with and mentor the next generation. They will bring ideas and solutions that we desperately need. In recent years, the INMM has received grants from funding organizations to help us pursue our mission. This year's meeting benefits from 2 grants. The Carnegie Program, the Foundation of New York, is funding our professional development program, which allows future and current leaders to pursue research projects under the mentorship of our fellows and senior members, and present their research here at the annual meeting and also printed in our journal. The second cohort of PDP fellows is attending this year's meeting. In addition, the NNSA Office of Radiological Security has provided funding for more than 30 individuals from around the world to attend our annual meeting. And the special workshop on radiological security that we held here in Portland on Saturday, that cohort includes people who have not attended INMM annual meetings before, plus people from regions that are underrepresented in our community. The grant is helping us expand the scope of our security and physical protection division and the Institute's outreach. The Strategic Planning Committee will be crowdsourcing some input from you. And remember, we're trying to show value, and so we really appreciate your feedback. Please take note of the survey questions that will pop up on the meeting app throughout the week. and then the Strategic Planning Committee will provide a summary of our strategic plan and the results of that survey during the closing plenary. I'd like to thank Morris Hatzler, who actually just got here today, and Scott Stewart, who is not here today, but we hope to see him soon, the annual meeting chair and technical program chair, respectively, for putting together this really spectacular annual meeting. I also want to thank all of our INMM committees, working groups, and divisions. They worked around the year for this meeting. And special thanks to our exhibitors and sponsors who helped make this meeting possible and show us some of the latest ideas, technologies, and opportunities. I particularly want to recognize our only platinum sponsor, Consolidated Nuclear Security, who managed Pantex and Y-12. As president, I have the honor of presenting awards and promotions to the membership rank of fellow. I want to thank the awards committee and the fellows committee for their work in reviewing this year's nominations and creating the presentations. On the awards committee, I'd like to thank and recognize Vineet Shaw, Joshua Rutkowski, and Joe Rivers, and their committee members. For the Fellows Committee, many thanks to Nancy Jo Nicholas and the current fellows. And thank you for all of those who took the time to nominate their colleagues for this recognition. The INMM has a respectful behavior policy, and we welcome all opinions that are offered politely and respectfully, but we cannot tolerate abusive language, bullying, harassment. So keep that in mind that sometimes written statements can be interpreted more harshly than intended. Make a point to be kind and respectful, even if you disagree with someone. I'm also excited to announce the results of our recent executive committee election, and I thank all of you who voted. Our vice president starting on October 1st is Laura Rockwood. I think, yeah. Yeah, really, I think some of you know her, and I feel so fortunate that she even decided to run. This is a 6-year commitment, which I'm learning. 2 years as vice president, 2 years as president, and 2 years as immediate past president. And we're really thrilled to have Laura in that leadership position. There's also a 2-year cycle for members at large who join the EC. And I want to thank Sunil Chirayev, who will take over leadership of our Nonproliferation and Arms Control Division after he steps down. And Laura Rockwood, yes, she was a member at large as well. And we already know where she's headed. Both are finishing on September 30th, and our next member at large cycle will begin then. And the new electees are Na-Young Lee from Kainak, Republic of Korea, and Marek Flaska from Penn State University. So I really thank them for stepping up to do that. So anyway, I thank all of you and the other candidates who ran and who we encourage to remain involved in INMM. We are a volunteer organization, and we need that kind of support. And great appreciation goes to Susan Pepper, who found all these candidates. She's the immediate past president. She's not only been dedicated to our outreach efforts, but has also been really an incredible fountain of knowledge, assisting the EC and me in running the Institute. So I'm very thankful for that. She'll step up to our Strategic Planning Committee. I mean, some volunteers, you just can't hold them back. And we're looking for more. We're very fortunate to have last year's in-person meeting in Vienna. And be assured that the INMM will continue to explore possible meeting locations outside the United States based on interest and our financial considerations. So after that, I'd like to turn over the podium to Tina Hernandez, our vice president, and soon to be the next president of the Institute.
All right, some really big shoes to fill, literally. So I know there's people standing there. If you all want to make your way in, there's plenty of seats available in the front. Those are not very popular. So I'll have you guys make your way so you don't have to stand. It's a long plenary. All right, before I get started, I went to the new first-time attendee meeting, orientation meeting yesterday, and there were so many people there. So if I can just have those whose first time it is attending INMM raise their hands. All right, okay, people who have been to, keep them up. So people who have been to INMM, please make these people, take note who these people are. Okay, write it down. And make them feel welcome. Bring them into the community and really show them why INMM is so important and why it's, it is really about the people and about the community. So, so welcome to all the new people, and welcome also to those who have been here for, I think somebody said this is their 35th consecutive meeting they've never missed. I'm not going to give any names. But yeah, I think, it's really important that we bring the next generation up and really make them feel wanted and part of our community, and so reach out. So we have an exciting program for you all this week. We have leaders in many fields that INMM covers, and you'll hear from many of them this morning in the plenary. I particularly want to point out our plenary session that will immediately follow the opening remarks with Corey Hinderstein from NNSA, Dr. Johu Wang from KHNP, Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power, Dr. Ulla Engelman from the European Union's Joint Research Center for Nuclear Safety and Security, and Dr. Stefan Lechner, the Director of Euratom Safeguards. So we're very excited to hear all that you have planned for today. We also have 2 special plenaries planned during the week. Tuesday's morning will be presented by the NNSA Office of Radiological Security with the panelists Mike Rowland, Emiliano Santiago Rojas, Camille Freestone, and it will be moderated by Mary Lynn. Then on Wednesday, we have a dedicated IEA Department of Safeguards session that's going to be headlined by the one and only Max Aparo and all of his directors. And on Thursday is our closing plenary on the promise. So now we're going to look into the future, right? We're going to spend all this time covering all the wonderful work that we all do. And then we're going to look at the future and say, okay, what about fusion energy? What are the concerns there? And so that's going to be with Michael Ford, Tammy Ma, Michael Wah, and it's going to be moderated by Dave LaGraff. In addition to so like I said earlier, we're going to speak about, and we're going to have all of the technical speakers speak about all of their the work that they're currently doing. So we're going to have 411 presentations organized into 105 parallel sessions and 65 posters in 5 poster sessions during the next 4 days. So I'm sure you're going to find so many interesting papers, posters, and panels. Definitely check out our exhibits. We have some great sponsors, and we want to make sure they're highlighted. Go by, say hello, learn about what each of these different labs, all of these different companies that have really given a lot of their financial and time, resource support to the Institute. So make them feel really welcome. We'll have time during coffee breaks, during tonight's president's reception, to make sure that you guys have a chance to speak to each of the sponsors and exhibitors. I also encourage you all to visit the poster sessions, exhibitors. So on Tuesday and that'll be Tuesday and Wednesday from 10:30 to 11 in the Ballroom F exhibit hall. So if you just go straight and to the left, that's the exhibit hall. Poster presenters will be there during this time to share their work and answer questions, and stop by to admire their hard work and new ideas that they're presenting. Please stop by and also meet with the authors outside of this window, and you can use the INMM app. So there's the 4 Waves app, there's QR codes in order to be able to get to the right website for that app. So you can contact them directly for questions as well. And for those students who submitted posters, we'll be announcing the winners of both the student paper and the poster award winners during our closing plenary. So stay tuned for that. This evening, so as you all, we've been trying to push out notifications, send papers out, give all of the notice we can. The president's reception will take place tonight. And then tomorrow because of that, we had to move the 7th Women of Mass Distinction to, it's gonna be from 6 to 7:30, and that will take place at the Kimpton. Following the Women of Mass Distinction, we will have the INMM mixer, which will take place here. And I really encourage you all to come and network and get to know one another. There are also regional and student chapter meetings during this period, so make sure you're talking to all of the different professional chapters, and they'll also be listed on the app. The last thing I want to make sure that I remark on is the annual business meeting, which this year will take place on Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. in the Oregon Ballroom. So this is your opportunity to hear about the activities of INMM since the last annual meeting. We'll also have drawings for 2 free INMM memberships. If that is what draws you in, definitely try to come. And it's actually it's a great meeting because you get to hear about what the EC has been working on, where they're going, and provide your input into things that we could be doing better and strategic directions we are not taking that we should be taking. So I encourage you all to attend that meeting. With that, I'm going to turn my remarks over to Maneet Shah, and he is going to be presenting the awards. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. What better way to kick off our annual meeting than by celebrating the dedication and commitment of our colleagues to the nuclear material management and profession. I'm Maneet Shah, the Awards Oversight Committee Chair, and I'm thrilled to guide you through the today's morning award ceremony. And don't go by my poker face. I'm excited. Let's make sure we give our award winners a warm round of applause as they come up to collect their awards. And we have 7 awards category, and we'll start with the Vincent D. Vito, if it's pulled up. Perfect. So the Vincent J. D. Vito Distinguished Service Award, which is named after the Institute's long-term secretary and recognizes individuals who have made long-term noteworthy contributions to the nuclear materials management profession. Our first candidate in this category has consistently exhibited a profound commitment to the excellence and innovation in nuclear safeguards. Their valuable insights and initiatives have significantly strengthened the effectiveness and efficiency in safeguarding nuclear materials and facilities worldwide. Their contributions extend beyond the leadership role at the IEA. Individual has been instrumental in fostering collaboration and knowledge exchange among international partners, promoting best practices, and facilitating capacity building initiatives. Our candidate has held various positions in the IEA safeguards and is currently serving as the Deputy Director General of the IEA's Department of Safeguards. And in recognition of their many technical achievements and leadership, I'm pleased to announce this year's Vincent J. D. Vito Distinguished Service Award to Dr. Massimo Aparo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next candidate for the Distinguished Service Award is one of the first individuals to recognize the importance of the human factor in nuclear security systems. Our candidate has worked tirelessly over many decades to establish the concept of nuclear security culture, exploring how nuclear organizations could seek to assess and enhance this. Our candidate has supported this through close collaborations with the IEA, where our candidate served for decades as advisor. Our candidate is the lead author of the Nuclear Security Series number 28, Technical Guidance on Self-Assessment of Nuclear Security Culture in Facilities and Activities. In recognition of our candidate's contribution towards international best practices on nuclear security and making nuclear materials and facilities more secure around the globe, I'm pleased to announce this year's Vincent J. D. Vito Distinguished Service Award to Dr. Igor Kriponov.
Recipient of the Distinguished Service Award. and activities were in the nuclear security culture domain. I participated in the international group of the International Atomic Energy Agency to develop guidance documents and other documents regarding nuclear security culture. Also training personnel in other countries. I summarized my activities in my book, Human Factor in Nuclear Security, published by Springer last year, 2023. You're welcome to read it. Again, I want to thank the INMM leadership for the honor.
So Dr. Kripanov could not be here, but he has asked me to share the brochure of his book, so I'll probably put it out in the INMM. So nobody kind of complains about me not sharing it. Our final candidate for the Vincent D. Vito Service Award has made significant and lasting contribution to the U.S. national security through their work on nuclear non-proliferation, IEA safeguards, and verification technology research and development programs. Our candidate has served nearly 3 decades at Lawrence Livermore National Lab as a scientist and program manager in cutting-edge research and development. Our candidate had built an innovative and robust program and oversaw over 40 projects through which over 50 technologies were deployed, addressing safeguards deficiency. Like me, our candidate has made you scratch your brain on Monday morning at several annual meetings. In recognition of the lasting contribution, vision, and leadership, I'm pleased to announce this year's Vincent D. Vito Distinguished Service Award to Dr. Arden Dugan. Thank you. The next award is the Edway R. Johnson Meritorious Service Award, named after a former INMM president and technical division chair, recognizes individuals who have provided long-term, outstanding service to the Institute. Our first group of candidates have made significant contribution to the committee sponsored by the INMM and accredited by the NC over the last decade or two. The stakeholder for the committee includes the government and civilian nuclear facilities in the US. The committee reports many NC standards in the field of nuclear materials management, and the INMM is the most relevant, if not only, institute qualified to manage this standard for NC. This is part of the institute that is more difficult to sustain due to the detailed nature of the work and the tireless commitment to working through the NC process of certification. The committee develops and maintains voluntary consensus standards for protection, control, and accounting of spatial nuclear materials in all phases of the nuclear fuel cycle, which is none other than N15 committee. In recognition of their valuable contribution over the years, I'm pleased to announce this year's Edway R. Johnson Meritorious Service Award to the officers of NCAC N15. And the chair is Melanie May. Then Jackie Ship-Bosch. I think Jackie, if you are here. Oh, she didn't make it? Oh, okay. Okay. Then is Balasubramaniam Srinivasan, who's also not here. Okay.
And he will accept the award on behalf for Gino Srinivasan.
Okay. Thank you. And then last, Lane Preston, who's also couldn't make it. Thank you. For the Meritorious Service Award, our next candidate's professional background includes both a broad and deep technical experience and leadership in nuclear materials management, ranging from safeguards technology development programs to MCNA implementation at nuclear facilities, to management of non-proliferation organization at Los Alamos. Over the years, our candidate has made technical contributions in the design and modeling of NDA instrumentation for both safeguards and waste management, the assessment of terrorism risk, the application of radiation monitoring to border security. Our candidate is currently serving as the Chief Operating Officer of Los Alamos Associate Directorate for Global Security, managing over 1,000 people. In recognition of his commitment, dedication, and leadership, I'm pleased to announce this year's Edward R. Johnson Meritorious Service Award to Dr. Michael Becker. Thank you. Our final candidate for the Meritorious Service Award has worked at both Whitewell and ORNL sites for nearly 40 years before retiring. Over the years, our candidate has worked in many areas of non-proliferation, becoming a recognized SME in both safeguards and MCNA. Our candidate has also served as a group leader for many years, mentoring graduate students and staff alike. Our candidate has been a dedicated member of INMM for many years and has served in various roles such as the INMM Secretary, the MCNA Technical Division Chair, and advocate for the Central Region Chapter. In recognition of the contribution towards the non-proliferation and INMM, I'm pleased to announce this year's Edward R. Johnson Meritorious Service Award to Mr. Chris Pickett. Thank you. The applause seems to have a little bit died away, decayed. Okay, so the next is the Charles E. Petrie Special Service Award, named for the longtime chair of the Technical Program Committee, recognizes individuals or organizations who have made a specific noteworthy contribution to the Institute. This year's candidate has been a strong supporter of the INMM for many years. They have recognized the INMM as a respected international organization that could use its influence to increase global security. They have been a long-time sustaining member of the INMM, and recently they have made financial contribution in support of our efforts to diversify our organization and the larger nuclear materials management community. For 3 years, last 3 years, 2020, 2021, and 2022, they have made grants to the INMM to cover the annual meeting registration fees for individuals who could not otherwise be able to attend the INMM meeting. These grants enabled more than 50 people to experience the INMM annual meeting. Several opening plenary speakers have come from this organization, and many of the staff members who have served on the INMM Executive Committee, including as president. In addition to their contribution to the INMM, they are highly respected non-governmental organization that provides much needed input to the nuclear materials management community. This organization, located in Washington, D.C., was established in 2001, and in recognition of their significant contribution to address nuclear material security across the world, I'm pleased to announce this year's Charles E. Petrie Special Service Award to Nuclear Threat Initiative. Thank you. The Roger Housley Award for Excellence in Nuclear Security, which is between WINS and INMM, is named for Roger Housley to recognize individuals or organizations who have made practical and sustained contribution to excellence in the nuclear security of nuclear and radiological materials. This year's candidate has shown unwavering commitment and dedication towards top-notch security in fortifying various facilities under his meticulous supervision. I gave away something. Due to the unwavering dedication demonstrated by Emirates Nuclear Energy Corporation, Neva Energy Company, in maintaining nuclear security standards, our candidate has overseen the granting of the WINS lifetime membership to the INS and NAC. Our candidates' achievements include establishment of nuclear security education and training organization at Barkha Nuclear Power Plant, establishment of nuclear security culture program at INEC Nava, or Barkha Nuclear Power Plant as well. In recognition of the significant contribution to achieve excellence in nuclear security, I'm pleased to announce this year's WINS INMM Roger Housley Award for Excellence in Nuclear Security to Dr. Mohammad Zinedine. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it, but
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues and distinguished guests, please accept my sincere apologies for my inability to attend the INMM Award and the annual meeting due to prior international workshop engagement. It is with profound gratitude and humility that today I accept the Roger Housley Medal for Excellence in Nuclear Security. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to my colleagues, friends, mentors who nominated me for this award, and the many organizations that have supported and collaborated with us over the years. I would like also to extend my heartfelt thanks to INMM and WINS for their continued commitment to promoting excellence in nuclear security. Thank you once again for this incredible honor. I am deeply humbled and inspired to continue our important work with renowned determination and purpose. Together we will strive for excellence in nuclear security and build a safer, more secure world for all. Thank you so much, and have a good day.
his colleague will be picking up the award. He wanted to make sure he gets the award, right? So the INMM Award for Education and Outreach recognizes an exceptional team, organization, or individual who has given outstanding service to the educating public and practitioners in the field of nuclear materials management. This year's candidate has received the PhD in nuclear engineering from Texas A&M University in 2013, and since then worked in various R&D capacities, including at the Department of Nuclear Engineering at Khalifa University in Abu Dhabi, UAE, and recently as a tenured associate professor at the Virginia Commonwealth University in the Department of Mechanical Nuclear Engineering. Our candidate has been involved in teaching both fundamental STEM courses as well as advanced nuclear engineering courses, preparing undergraduate and graduate students for their career while mentoring them. Our candidate is faculty advisor of the INMM student chapter at VCU and has played a major role in growing contribution of VCU students to the ANS and INMM. In recognition of valuable contribution, guidance, and mentoring, I'm pleased to announce this year's Education and Outreach Award to Dr. Braden Goddard. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it, but I believe one of his students was going to pick it up, and I'll start his speech in the meantime.
Hi, everyone, and I'm sorry for not being there to accept this award, but I did want to record this message and say that I am incredibly grateful for this award. I've dedicated my life to the safe and secure management of nuclear materials and training the next generation of students, and receiving this award is validation of all the work that I've put in and all my students have put in to this field. I want to say thank you to all the mentors I've had. I've had too many to name off here. But they've all been incredibly helpful, and really, without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. So thank you to everyone, and I'm sorry I'm not there, but I will be there at next year's INMM annual meeting, and I look forward to seeing you all.
He, in fact, sent out an email while vacationing that his students are here, take care of it. So, shows his dedication. So the next one is the Early Career Award, recognizes young members of the INMM who have made a singular outstanding achievement or a series of notable achievements in the area of nuclear material management. Our first candidate has made contribution to strengthen nuclear material security globally, develop disarmament verification capacity, support IEA safeguards, and develop strategies for managing spent fuel. Our candidate has helped to develop NTI's Nuclear Security Index and facilitate Track 2 dialogues with China on nuclear security. Our candidate provided recommendations for NNSA practices in handling, storage, and disposition of both plutonium and HEU for the Office of Fissile Material Disposition. In recognition of our candidate's contribution to nuclear materials management, I'm pleased to announce this year's Early Career Award to Ms. Jessica Bufford. Our second and final candidate's accession from a graduate student at Texas A&M University to a summer intern to a ORNL staff member to serving as technical advisor for Office of International Nuclear Safeguards, Advanced Reactor International Safeguards Engagement Program, that's mouthful, NA241 ARISE MNO. Over the short span, our candidate has made impactful contributions across the diverse projects. Our candidate has also supported the Institute in diverse capacities, including currently serving as the chair of the Communications Committee. In recognition of our candidate's contribution to international safeguards, I'm pleased to announce this year's Early Career Award to Logan Scott. He's not getting ready to marry, but he's based on your photo. I was talking about the photo. Last one. Oh. Yes. The INMM Award for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility, DIA, recognizes significant accomplishments of a team, organization, or individual in supporting the equal opportunity, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility of practitioners in the field of nuclear materials management. Our first candidate's contribution to DIA in the nuclear field goes beyond mentorship, speaking and training, and championing initiatives, including the INMM DIA PDP Professional Development Program. It includes pointing out the lack of diversity in decision-making processes, requesting the inclusion of more diverse and equitable slate of attendees in meetings, conferences, delegations, and panels, and asking the hard questions on the negotiation table. In the current role as Senior Advisor to the Under Secretary of Arms Control and International Security, at the US Department of State. Our candidate champions collaboration between scientists, policymakers, and international partners. In recognition of unwavering commitment to DIA, I am pleased to announce this year's Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Award to Dr. Tracy Ann Wellington. Unfortunately, she couldn't make it, but here is her speech.
I regret not being able to join the INMM annual meeting in Portland this year, but thankful for the virtual opportunity to express my gratitude. I'm honored to be nominated for and selected to receive this year's INMM Award for DEI. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the INMM leadership for their support of the INMM DEI Professional Development Program. Its success is in no small part due to the commitment of the executive committee, coordinators, mentors, mentees, and the INMM membership. It has been a privilege to develop the program, and I'm confident it is in great hands. Again, thank you for the honor, and I hope to see you all again at a future meeting.
Our second and final candidate, apart from their illustrious career in nuclear materials management, is passionate about community engagement, protecting wild species, climate change, social justice, and is a strong advocate for diversity in the nuclear field. For the past several years, our candidate is leading the charge within the US and NSA to increase diversity within human capital development efforts. In addition, our candidate has several ongoing or recently related volunteer efforts, including for the Women of Color Advocate Advancing Peace, Security, and Conflict Transformation, WACPS. In recognition of her commitment to DIA, I am pleased to announce this year's DIA Award to Dr. Chantel Murphy. I would like to thank all the nominators, recommendation letter providers, supporters, and my committee members. Just echo Mark's comment about appreciating their efforts. And I would like to now pass over to Nancy Jo Nicholas for announcing the new fellows. Thank you.
So I am not Nancy Jo Nicholas. I wish I was, but aren't awards fun? I mean, I love this part. So there is one more surprise. And our next early career winner started his career in nuclear material management, including both academic and professional pursuits, with a PhD in nuclear engineering from Texas A&M University, and later roles at prestigious institutions like Oak Ridge National Laboratory and the Canadian Nuclear Safety Commission. His interest in research, analysis, and training demonstrate a well-rounded approach that is valued within INMM. His contributions ranging from developing innovative radiation detectors to enhancing reactor safety systems underscore his commitment to advancing nuclear science. His extensive publication record and active participation in workshops and symposiums further exemplify his dedication to knowledge dissemination and collaboration with the nuclear community. Manit Shah exceptional achievements make him a deserving candidate for recognition through an early career award, celebrating his recent contributions to our field and anticipating his continued impact within the INMM community. Where did he go?
Let's see, if you're standing in the back, there are still plenty of seats up front, and we're going to transition right into the opening plenary after this, so feel free to come up and grab a seat. I am Nancy Jo Nicholas. I am the chair of the INMM Fellows Committee, and to wrap up our award ceremony, I will be presenting our newest fellow to you today. INMM Fellow is a distinction reserved for a select number of INMM members who have extraordinary accomplishments in the field of nuclear materials management and whose contributions to the Institute of Nuclear Materials Management are deemed fitting of this prestigious grade elevation. The total number of fellows at their time of advancement shall never exceed 5% of the regular INMM membership. The INMM fellows as a body represent a wealth of both historical and current knowledge about and commitment to the Institute. This year, we are privileged to have a candidate for fellow who is not only an active member of the INMM, but someone who has truly demonstrated dedication to the Institute by volunteering time and energy to make our Institute a better professional society. Our candidate's career in nuclear materials management is equally impressive as a researcher, an educator, a scholar, and a professional. Currently recognized as an expert in nuclear nonproliferation and arms control, working at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. From June 2015 until moving to Oak Ridge, our candidate led the Texas A&M University's Center for Nuclear Security Science and Policy Initiatives, and executed its distinguished educational and workforce development activities to advance the nuclear security mission, and also served as a guide, mentor, and champion for the very active TAMU INMM student chapter. Our candidate is also well known in the international community, sharing best practices in nuclear security via the World Institute for Nuclear Security, or WINS, and providing technical expertise at the IAEA. Educated in India, our candidate's professional career started supporting regulatory safety inspections of Indian nuclear fuel cycle facilities. Our candidate is a devoted, hardworking supporter of the INMM, who served as the Southwest chapter president, serves on the Journal of Nuclear Materials Management Advisory Group, the Nonproliferation and Arms Control Division, and is a member of the Technical Program Committee, and has also organized numerous workshops and has filled an important role in connecting INMM with the American Nuclear Society's nonproliferation efforts. In 2012, the INMM awarded our candidate the Education and Outreach Award. Therefore, it was with great pleasure that I announce that in recognition of his distinguished contributions to the field of nuclear materials management and service to our institute, the Executive Committee of the INMM has elected this 22nd day of July 2024 to the rank of fellow, Dr. Sunil excuse me, Sunil, welcome. And now I'll invite the opening plenary panel to take the stage.
Thank you very much. My name is Kirsten Lauren Kovitz. I'm the Associate Laboratory Director for Nuclear Technologies and National Security at Argonne National Laboratory. And I have the great honor and pleasure to be hosting a distinguished panel of experts to discuss with us today the theme of today's meeting. So I will first invite them all to the stage. We'll take a little time for each of them to give some opening remarks. We'll have some structured Q&A, and then we'll open it to the floor. So I hope you'll all be listening and be ready to approach the microphones when we reach that time. So first of all, I'd like to introduce Ms. Corey Hinderstein, Acting Principal Deputy Administrator for the National Nuclear Security Administration. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Stefan Lechner, Director, Euratom Safeguards, Directorate General for Energy within the European Commission. Our third panelist today is Dr. Ulla Engelmann. She's the Director of the Joint Research Center within the European Commission's Nuclear Safety and Security at the Karlsruhe site. And our final panelist is Ju-Hoo Wang, President of the INMM Korea Chapter and CEO of Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power Company Limited. So we're meeting today with a theme, Meeting the Moment, Nuclear Stewardship in the Age of New Technology and Global Tensions. We have invited each of the speakers to discuss their view of the current and future environment for nuclear materials security and management. How has it changed? How is it continuing to change? And how we, as nuclear materials management practitioners, adapt to meet the moment. So without further ado, I'll turn the floor over to Corey Hinderstein for her opening remarks. Corey.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'm so happy to be back at INMM. It's a real pleasure to be here in Portland, not in the desert for those long-term attendees, but especially to be here representing the National Nuclear Security Administration at the U.S. Department of Energy. It's really a great opportunity for me to be back here in a community that where I feel so welcome and that I feel is so important. I think most of you know that I have a deep respect for INMM, for its history, and for its role as a leading professional society. And this morning, I'd like to emphasize two main points. One is that given the volatility of the current international environment, NNSA's missions are more important, but more in flux than ever. And second, that while our specific programs might evolve, NNSA's efforts will continue and will continue to align with INMM's priorities and its 6 divisions. Before looking ahead, though, I wanted to make a quick observation about INMM, appropriate to its 65th annual meeting. The Institute was founded in 1958, so I don't know who the 35 consecutive meetings is, but you've got a little bit of time even before that, right? 1958. But it emerged from a series of meetings from NNSA's precursor, the Atomic Energy Commission, which were hosted with representatives of the management and operating contractor community, the national laboratories, and the labs, plants, and sites. And those meetings that took place between 1955 and 1957. And I encourage folks who haven't done it, a few years ago on INMM's anniversary, there was a series of historical articles in the journal and that are available more broadly about INMM's history and how it's evolved. The years in which those meetings were taking place were ones of great change and where there were extreme events related to atomic history. Obviously, in 1955, the United Nations held an international conference on the peaceful uses of atomic energy in Geneva. I mean, imagine that. It's less than 10 years after the advent of nuclear power, nuclear energy, and of course, the nuclear weapon. And already the world was having to think about how to organize itself. The world's first commercial nuclear power plants became operational at Windscale, England in 1956, and Shippingport, Pennsylvania in 1957. And then again in 1957, the International Atomic Energy Agency was founded. So it's clear that the United States, but more importantly the world, needed an independent organization, a voice, to provide expertise in the area of nuclear materials management. So it's not an overstatement to say that the Institute itself, the history is almost synchronous with the history of the atomic age. And with the end of the Cold War came opportunities as well. So it was another tipping point. And the world made significant progress in reducing nuclear dangers that had evolved and grown over the course of the Cold War. Collectively, we strengthened the international nonproliferation regime, the global commitment to nuclear security, and we limited the strategic arsenals of the world's largest nuclear powers. The last decade, however, has revealed cracks in the arms control and nonproliferation regime. Today, the expansion of nations' nuclear weapons stockpiles and their delivery systems, coupled with increasing regional conflicts involving nuclear weapon states and nuclear possessing states, possess challenges and pose significant dangers. Russia has repeatedly rejected talks on a successor to New START, which expires in 2026. And China, just last week, formally announced it would halt nascent arms control discussions with the United States. North Korea is expanding and diversifying its nuclear weapons arsenal. Iran is expanding and diversifying its nuclear fuel cycle capabilities. These adversaries are increasingly cooperating and coordinating with each other in ways that undermine peace and stability and threaten global security. The pretext given by Russia and China for rejecting US approaches to arms control and strategic stability are Ukraine and Taiwan. Russia and China are trying to leverage our interests in arms control to influence our international posture and weaken our commitments to our partners and allies. This is not the behavior of responsible nuclear actors. The US National Security Council Senior Director Pranay Vadi said last month that, quote, without a change in the trajectory that Russia, the PRC, and North Korea are on, the United States will need to continue to adjust our posture and capabilities to ensure our ability to deter and meet other objectives going forward. These remarks garnered, obviously, a lot of attention about the direction the United States is going. And I encourage people who are interested to read his full remarks because it puts it in a context. And that context is that we still have the opportunity for that not to be a fait accompli. But our world is dramatically different from 30 years ago, which is why NNSA Administrator Jill Ruby has observed, quote, not since the Manhattan Project has there been a more challenging moment for the NNSA. But it is a time for innovation. On nuclear security, just as with strategic stability, we can't think about the world as it was 10 years ago, much less in the immediate aftermath of the Cold War. For more than a generation, the fear that terrorists could acquire and use a nuclear device has motivated a range of efforts to place nuclear materials beyond the reach of non-state actors. Although constructing a nuclear device requires significant resources and advanced scientific and engineering skill, we cannot assume these obstacles will hinder terrorists indefinitely. And in this area as well, the gains we've made globally are at the risk of backsliding, and the sense of common purpose on nuclear security is at risk of fracturing. NNSA has made tremendous progress by eliminating over 7,300 kilograms of weapons-usable nuclear material from partner countries, enough for over 320 nuclear weapons. Yet addressing and mitigating the threat has new urgency, as the world is likely on the cusp of a renaissance in civilian nuclear power as a means of combating climate change and securing sustainable development. There are roughly 60 nuclear reactors currently under construction, with dozens more in the planning stage, and new and novel designs that will challenge the International Safeguards Mission, as well as nuclear security. This adoption of nuclear energy is urgent and necessary, as both a key part of meeting climate goals and combating climate change, but also as part of seeking a more equitable global development through access to vital medical, agricultural, and environmental tools. Without mindful approaches, however, this expansion could increase risks. This is why NNSA maintains more than 100 bilateral partnerships and works with multilateral organizations like the IAEA, Interpol, the UN Office of Drugs and Crime, to counter theft and smuggling networks and improve the security of vulnerable assets. I'd like to stress that the IAEA is the backbone of civil nuclear and peaceful nuclear energy enterprises globally. We could not even imagine a nuclear renaissance if we didn't have a strong, empowered, and independent IAEA. Yet as new nuclear energy programs emerge, a heightened burden is placed on the nuclear nonproliferation regime and the IAEA to prevent nuclear energy programs from becoming latent nuclear weapon capabilities or targets for terrorists. NNSA is supporting our national laboratories to partner directly with the U.S. reactor vendors and designers to tackle the technology challenges of incorporating nuclear security and safeguards into small and advanced reactors. So we want to do this early so that facilities proposed for export or in development overseas will enhance nuclear security and nonproliferation principles and can meet international regulatory requirements. Additionally, our Proliferation Resistance Optimization Program, known as PROEX, works with research reactor designers to minimize special nuclear material production and diversion pathways and maximize reactor performance for their stated uses. And our PROEX team is here this week and will be presenting on their lessons learned. By collaborating with governments, regulators, and the nuclear industry to not only strengthen safety features, but also security and safeguard features of nuclear reactors and their associated fuel cycles, we can avoid making the same mistake with the next generation of nuclear reactors that we made with some in the past. Incorporating nuclear security and nuclear safeguards into designs early is less costly than waiting until later. Over decades of work, the international community has built a solid framework. The challenges will be to ensure that these regimes adapt to emerging technologies, from new reactor designs and new fuels to new threats, such as cyber attacks and uncrewed aerial systems. We need to continue to innovate international safeguards approaches to maximize effectiveness and credibility while seeking efficiencies. We need to think creatively about future arms control and verification, using this pause that we find ourselves in to push forward solutions that we seek for the future, but that we already know are going to take time to develop. Simply put, we can't rely on the solutions of the past to address the challenges of the present or the future. That's how we'll meet the moment. The NNSA programs that I've mentioned both support and are reinforced by collaboration with the Institute's 6 divisions. I've already mentioned directly international safeguards, nuclear security and physical protection, although that one has a new name I'm not entirely sure of, and nonproliferation and arms control. Material control and accountability underpins all 3 of these key missions. Packaging, transportation, and disposition are key enablers of responsibly executing all elements of the NNSA nuclear security enterprise and realizing the peaceful benefits of nuclear energy. And the facilities operated by our M&O partners are at the forefront of the pressures to deliver NNSA's national security responsibilities, not just the 7 concurrent modernization programs, but the broad nonproliferation, nuclear security, and arms control responsibilities. At INMM, opportunities to share technical accomplishments, advance nuclear materials management, and improve the qualifications of those employed in this field are vital to the sustainability of nuclear materials management. I'd like to conclude this morning with a message for the nuclear workforce, and I know many of you who are associated with and support the NNSA are in the room. NNSA's most important asset is our people. The effectiveness of our defense programs and nonproliferation missions is due to the over 65,000 scientists, engineers, technicians, program managers, safety and security experts, and support staff that comprise NNSA's workforce. On behalf of Administrator Ruby and all of NNSA's leadership, I want you to know how much we appreciate you and your dedication, your sacrifice, and your ability to adapt to these new challenges. And to our international partners, none of us can succeed in our missions alone. We depend on each other, we learn from each other, and we have to be here for each other. Thank you to everyone at INMM for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. Thank you for your time, your support, and more importantly, everything you dedicate your professional lives to do to ensure that nuclear and radioactive materials are used safely and securely. To support the United States, our allies, our partners, and the entire community to further the peaceful use of nuclear material and technology across the globe. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corey. I'd now like to turn the floor over to Stefan Lechner, so he can give some remarks.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure and an honor to have a plenary address here again. I just need to see that somebody will draw up my slides here, right, possibly before the time is starting. Good. Thank you very much. The view that I will present is a little bit the motto of this conference, Meeting the Moment, from a perspective of the European Union, the European Commission. So meeting the moment could be something that we all know and what is the moment in technological development here. And I put also the most recent high-tech types here, but also something that is literally down to earth or even lower. The geological repository in Finland will start 2025, and we have had a lot of effort together with the IAEA to also find safeguards approaches there. But in Brussels, for the European Commission, the moment is completely different. The moment in Brussels is in July 2024, the European Green Deal of 2019 having been completed after 5 years of terms of the European Commission and the new and old European Commission's president's political guidelines, just published last Thursday before her re-election in the European Parliament. So this is very recent news. We still have the European Green Deal with the member states, and then we advanced our ambitions Fit for 55. This is not fitness for seniors like me, but it is 55% reduction of greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 instead of 50%. Then we had the recovery and resilience for throwing money to the facilities and to the plans to not fall back after COVID into old habits. And then we have that Repower EU after Mr. Putin decided to invade Ukraine and to decouple energy supply from the EU, of the EU from Russia. So we have stressed our member states quite significantly, and we need to do this all in a global context. And our old and new president now, being recently re-elected, has a big task ahead of her. So the EU moment is highly political. And where is nuclear here? Nuclear is in very many places, so either directly, which we can see here in all of the targets, because the member states are choosing their energy source, and this is how it is going to be put together at the European level. There will be 10 to 12% nuclear in the energy mix of the European Union in the year 2050. So nuclear will not fade away anytime soon. And it's also indirectly there, Repower EU, getting out of Russian dependencies, and the political guidelines, which I had to blind guess a little bit because they were just recently published. But I've checked them last night and I've updated the slides. The European Commission, as you know it, might be something like there is a president to address. And there are different commissioners for different portfolio elements. So we've got a French commissioner for industry, and we have an Estonian commissioner for energy. We also used to have, for innovation and youth and also research, a Bulgarian commissioner. She's retired already. The commission is coming to the end of its terms. And we have, for instance, for administration and budget, Johannes Hahn from Austria. I'm naming some countries here intentionally. But of course, we're having more commissioners. So we have 22 more executive vice presidents, or commissioners, and they are in charge of additional files. The new commission taking office very soon, as of September, is completely different. First, we needed to have an agreement, a political agreement of the member states for a candidate for the president. We have that. Then we needed to get her political guidelines last Thursday in the morning, while last Thursday she was speaking at the European Parliament to campaign for being re-elected. And she needed to have 361 votes, and she was re-elected by 401. So this is quite a decent majority. Last time, on her first term, she had only 8 votes more than she required. So anyway, a tight race here, although she has been the only candidate, but that is very normal here because she has been agreed by the member states before. But now, the commissioners will have to be nominated by the member states, but only the persons, not the portfolios. So this is now the French, Estonian, Bulgarian, Austrian commissioner, and of course France has a completely different approach to nuclear than, let's say, Austria, with an anti-atom law, or Luxembourg. And on top we will have all the other member states, and they will also have to nominate commissioners, and we do not know whom they're going to nominate. And then at the end of the day, the president will assign portfolios to these commissioners. So she will compose her own commission. And only then the designated commissioners will be heard again at the European Parliament, and not everybody will pass. There have been changes last minute, and the Parliament has voted against the appointment of certain commissioners. So it will take some time. Meeting the EU moment, therefore, is a bit early today. We do not know a lot. We still have question marks here, there, and everywhere. So actually, the names, the origin, the responsibility, who will be in charge of energy is quite unclear. And then there is a mission letter that the president sends to every commissioner what needs to be done in the next 5 years. We are working on this in the EU, but it's kind of black box approach with hidden mechanics. As you can see, I mean, unveiling a little bit. Let me see if I can get this out. Yeah, right. Any engineer in the room will immediately see that this one will not work. It will clog. Unfortunately, it reflects reality because sometimes we are having stalled processes. And then we need to just change them to just find a different approach in negotiations, and then we'll have something more decent that will work. And at the end of the day, the idea is to get very soon also the appointments out. September 2024, we will have it all resolved, and we will have also the names to turn to. It's like Winston Churchill. I would like to talk to Europe, but what number should I call? Now we will get this soon. So stay tuned and keep an eye on this. The European Green Deal development over time, of course, in the nuclear field has seen a recognition of the EU, of nuclear in the EU taxonomy. And we have seen that the national climate and energy plans that every one of the single 27 member states has submitted has or hasn't a nuclear component. It's up to them. But of course, in the plans altogether summarized at the EU level, there is nuclear in the long run. And then very recently, the Net Zero Industrial Act has nuclear among the supported technologies. And this is new. So not only, as originally planned, electricity generation by nuclear sources, the electricity part can be supported, but also the nuclear part and everything that is related to the fuel cycle. Is really an anticipation of a nuclear renaissance here, laying out the political grounds in a Net Zero Act. So for me, it's like launching the Green Deal in 2019, and currently we're sweeping hard to get it into a position where it would really then be effective. And there are still changes, but the thing is already having political momentum. And we must just then make sure that it will be on target in 2030, 2040, and 2050, and that it still will be green. And so the momentum is there, but we're channeling it currently. And the channeling is done in a way, if I'm looking at the political guidelines newly established of the European President, of the European Commission President, in comparison to her plan for the years 2019 to 2024. Take a look at that. This is the 2019 plan for 5 years, and this is a 24 plan for 5 years, just issued last Thursday, so we had to analyze it. I mean, I don't have a very complex team. The left one, 2019, has 21 pages. The right one has 30 pages, and it's all full of political intention. So I applied the most scientific methodology that I'm capable to apply. Did the word count? Of the key words that are relevant here. And green is appearing here 7 times. Number 2 is international. I checked only 5 words. 3 is energy. 4 is clean, and nuclear, unfortunately, didn't appear. I thought I should check for Europe against the US or so, but finding US 282 times on the document was a bit strange. Then I realized it's contained in words as must, or business, or housing. Okay, right, I skipped this. So this time, energy 37 times. This is amazing. The energy crisis has left its traces. Clean, 18 times. So where the hell is green? International, 15 times. Green with a backwards reference to the Green Deal 10 times, more often than on the 20 pages, 21 pages in 2019. And then nuclear, at least mentions once, but only in CBRN explaining the N. So altogether, what we can see here, that was a European Green Deal, and we have made a good way there. And this is now one of the main initiatives, not the only one, but the one I picked here. One of the main initiatives of our new and old president will be a clean industrial deal. But we are a political institution, so watch the wording. The whole show is going from green to clean. And this is intentionally done like this. So green is always renewable and wind and solar and hydro, whereas clean is zero emissions. Remember the Net Zero Industrial Act? It is intentionally named Net Zero and not the Green Industrial Act. So this is the science that we can read, and this is what will be implemented over the coming month, as I have explained. At the end of the day, sorry for not being able to give you a real beef now, because it's still all in the making. In the safeguards team of Euratom Safeguards, we're implementing the recently revised safeguards regulation of how our operators are reporting to us. We are facilitating the European SMR Industrial Alliance, because we also want to push from the European Commission side, but it's still an industrial alliance. We are safeguarding new installation types and looking into new concepts. I'm not going to come back to digital at the end of my speech, as I typically do, because it's all in the revised regulation. We are looking interestingly into possible negotiations for accession of Ukraine, because Ukraine is an accession state, but that doesn't mean that we already negotiate. But the European Council has asked us to open negotiations with Ukraine. And the energy chapter will not be the last one to be opened among the 35 chapters, because it's so important. So we will do this very soon. And then, of course, what we will have to do for the next 5 years is also intensifying our international links with the like-minded. We do not know how the European Commission will look like, and we do not know how the next US administration will look like, but at the technical level, for joining forces for the very same objective of nuclear non-proliferation, we need to stand united. And yes, that's you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Stefan. I feel like there's a lot of meat already for our Q&A session coming from the two speakers, and we have 2 more to go. So, Ulla Engelmann.
Good morning, everybody. And I'm also a European speaker, and I represent the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. And you have heard from Stefan now, so elaborate where we stand with the European Commission, and the JRC is the scientific and technical arm of the European Commission. So we find ourselves, of course, in a similar situation, but at the same time, now with the work on the political guidelines, the implementation in the Joint Research Center, one of the things we have throughout the last years fostered a lot is foresight work, including also foresight in nuclear topics. So we hope also with our work to support now the construction of the new Commission with providing information about the different foresights. We have been working on different scenarios, on what was mentioned, the clean industrial deal. So this is additionally to the work of the JRC. We are not only working in the nuclear field, but we have a much wider scope. And that's why the JRC is, just to give you a bit of background, hosted in 5 member states, and in Belgium, in Germany, in Italy, in the Netherlands, and in Spain. And the nuclear work of the JRC is not the only one place where it's not happening is in Spain. And our major laboratories are in Germany, in Karlsruhe, where I'm based. And, but we also have in Belgium, Italy, and the Netherlands nuclear activities. And this gives an overview of our work for Euratom. And here you can see we have a dedicated part on nuclear safeguards. But of course, we are also covering the nuclear safety of nuclear power plants, radioactive waste management, non-power applications, but also looking much at nuclear knowledge and competence management. But turning now to where we are working on challenges for safeguards and non-proliferation, if we look at the existing nuclear fuel cycle, on one hand, supporting working on remote inspections, also the intelligent investigative inspector and the different tools. But what will become even more important are the challenges for the future nuclear fuel cycles. And it has been mentioned in some of the previous speeches also, the SMRs, the advanced modular reactors, and there we will have new challenges. And so meeting the moment, we are at a moment where we see a lot of concepts are coming up, and then the question is, how are the concepts also dealing with the questions of safeguarding? So I think there will a lot be work going into this, but also it is about looking which are the concepts amongst so many. I mean, I don't even have the latest figure because the OECD and EA scoreboard at a certain moment said about 90, but by now it might be more. And so I think this is also taking right then into account all the aspects like safeguarding might help to challenge the different concepts and maybe work faster, because on the other hand, I think particularly SMRs are living also from the promise that things will go fast. So there we'll have interesting work to do, and of course looking also as new methodologies. Very concretely, in JRC, what we are working at, just here a short overview. It is on one hand the 3D mapping and analysis for design information verification, automated facility monitoring and surveillance, authentication and verification of spent fuel casks, 3D information management system, operator applied and removed seal, and universal seal readers. Just to give you some very concrete examples of what we are working on, and we are working in collaboration. It was also said before, the importance of working together internationally, to work in networks like INMM, like the ESADA network. It is important to have the exchanges, to advance together, to work on one hand and supporting our Euratom colleagues, the IAEA. It is important with all these concepts and technologies to work together. And another area which has become also more important, particularly after the Russian war in Ukraine, because all the work we are doing to support the sanctions, the sanction regime of the European Commission. So we are supporting the EU strategic trade control policy cycle. And it is starting with international export control regimes, but then also looking at EU dual-use control lists, sanction technical annexes, and this then goes in EU recommendations, which then have to be translated to harmonized implementation in all 27 EU member states. And this would then also require training, capacity building on export control cooperation. And for this, then feeding in with the work we are doing on, for example, having a handbook for chemicals, internal compliance, having a trade atlas, but also using tools such as detecting weak signals. On the challenges in the area of nuclear security and forensics, about prevention, but there JRC is having no specific activities. On detection, innovative detection methods, testing, validation, standardization, but then also on the response. And there's a mobile in-field support, but then also we have, for example, in Karlsruhe, a fully fledged nuclear forensics lab. And we are working on competence building with our EUSECTRA, which is our European school for European Nuclear Security Training Center. And there we train, and this is in strong cooperation with the US, and also there, over the years, we have established long-term cooperation, working on one hand with the US, who has also a similar training center, exchanging knowledge, discussing who does what, working also with the IAEA, who has set up a training center. So it is important that we coordinate, that we maximize opportunities, because it is very much about training and creating opportunities for others. It was mentioned the importance of human resources, and human resources need training, but also human resources, we need to look at the future, because when we see the lack of the gap, it's a war for skills. Every domain has difficulties to get or to attract young people. So I think that's why it is also here a good place to discuss what can we do, how can we make sure that we attract the best to our fields, and having training centers, having facilities, having nuclear infrastructure, which is working, which attracts, I think this is one of the parts. And when we talk about nuclear security and forensics, it is also about making the difference. Because for the young people, if you want to have impact, making the difference might be because you get inspired by like nuclear forensics, like forensic CSI. So forensics seems for the younger generation cool. So can we get to nuclear forensics is even cooler? So maybe something to discuss throughout these days. And I would want to close with a little publicity stunt for my colleagues who are working on certified reference materials, which is another area we are working on, and they will have a session just afterwards. And as in this work going more than 50 years of dedicated work, I thought I will mention it briefly. Thank you very much.
And our final speaker with prepared remarks will be Dr. Zhuhu Wang. Doctor?
Good morning, everybody. Dear Kirsten, a prominent panelist and colleagues and dear friends, it is a great honor for me to be invited as a plenary speaker at this INMM annual meeting. As the president of the INMM and the CEO of Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power, this company is the sole nuclear utility in the Republic of Korea. I would like to discuss the growing importance of nuclear power to address the issues of climate change, energy security, and rising demand of electricity. Before discussing the main subject of my talk today, please let me share with you an old history in Korea. In 1956, Dr. Walker Lee Sisler, the then chairman of the board and CEO of Detroit Edison, visited then Korean President Lee Seung-man at the Blue House to advise on Korean power policy after the Korean War. When President Lee expressed concerns over the country's electricity shortage and asked for the solution, Dr. Sisler opened the wooden box containing coal and uranium, and he explained to the president like this: when this tiny piece of uranium burns, it produces as much electricity as 30 rail cars of coal. Coal is mined in the land, but nuclear energy is mined in the brain. Countries such as Korea that are poor in natural resources should proactively develop this energy source. This suggestion of Dr. Sisler planted a crucial seed, leading to the signing of a turnkey construction contract with Westinghouse for Gori Unit 1 in 1970. And 8 years later, in 1978, the first nuclear power plant began commercial operation in the Republic of Korea. In less than 20 years, Korea developed the standard Korean reactor design, the KSNP, which was later designated as OPR-1000. The relentless endeavors by Korean engineers continued, and a more advanced model, APR-1400, was launched. This led to a landmark deal for Korea in 2009, delivering 4 commercial nuclear power units to the United Arab Emirates. The Republic of Korea now operates 25 nuclear units with plans to further increase this number to 34 by 2038. Korea has secured these achievements only over the past half century, and this is a journey that the United States has also shared by fully supporting Korea. I would like to take this opportunity to express my deepest gratitude to the United States in sharing its valuable experiences with us. As we are fully aware that the global nuclear industry is experiencing a revival again, the role of nuclear power is increasing. There is a need for drastic reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. The instability of the energy supply is increasing due to the Russia-Ukraine war and the volatile upheavals in the Middle East. In addition, the rapid advent of the artificial intelligence era, marked by the emergence of ChatGPT, creates explosive increase in the electricity demand. This is well illustrated by the declaration at COP28 held in Dubai last December. 23 countries, including the United States and Korea, jointly pledged to triple their current nuclear power capacities by 2050. Another astonishing phenomenon in the nuclear industry today is the development of the new market of small modular reactors. Led by the United States, many countries are actively developing SMRs for various purposes. In line with this global trend, KHNP is also diligently developing advanced SMRs. Such an expansion of nuclear power worldwide is presenting several urgent challenges for us. The first challenge is how to secure the global nuclear non-proliferation and security throughout cultivating its culture for the newcomers. If nuclear power capacity is to expand threefold, the number of nuclear sites and workforce will also grow exponentially. The development of SMRs will further accelerate this momentum, and this may threaten the safe and secure management of nuclear materials, technologies, and facilities. Under this situation, it is particularly concerning that Russia and China have dominated the global nuclear export market since 2010. It is essential that the leading exporters of nuclear power plants should hold the initiative for nuclear non-proliferation. In this regard, how the West, led by the United States, stops aggressive advances of these two countries is critical from a non-proliferation perspective. The Republic of Korea, creating a successful story for the nuclear non-proliferation, shall do its best to fully support the sincere efforts teaming up with the United States and allies like EU and The second challenge is how to assure the stable supply of nuclear fuel. It is well known that Russia currently occupies the biggest part of the global uranium enrichment services. Such dependence on one country highlights the risk of nuclear fuel supply becoming a strategic weapon. There have been significant efforts to revitalize the capacities of the civilian uranium enrichment and the uranium supplies from the Western society. The Republic of Korea will join this ambitious effort to assure the stable supply of fresh nuclear fuels for the global community. The third challenge is how to enhance the global effort to accelerate the development of SMRs. The importance of the timely introduction of SMRs cannot be emphasized too strongly. Especially to produce enough green hydrogen, it is essential to commercialize the Generation 4 SMRs as early as possible. South Korea will work on the team effort with the United States and other friends to fully support the swift action for the Gen 4 SMRs. In addition, it is important how to manage spent nuclear fuel for the future nuclear electricity generation to acquire full public support. These challenges cannot be resolved by a single country. In particular, international efforts are urgently required to alleviate concerns regarding nuclear proliferation. This includes strengthening or expanding international non-proliferation regimes and enhancing nuclear export control systems. It is crucial to find and implement solutions promptly before it is too late. The Republic of Korea has particularly adhered well to the export control regulations associated with cooperation with foreign countries. Indeed, we demonstrated how to disseminate the export control systems to the newcomers throughout our effort in the Arab Emirates. The Republic of Korea is expanding nuclear non-proliferation effort not only within its territory, but also in other developing countries. This is done through our Nuclear Regulatory Agency, KAINAC, as well as other educational institutions such as the KEPCO International Nuclear Graduate School. For the Year of the Nuclear Renaissance, we plan to support the prominent think tanks worldwide to develop the proper policies and detailed action plans for the nuclear non-proliferation, especially for the newcomers. To this end, as the board chairman of the Kings and the chairman of the INMM, today I'm proudly announcing the timely inauguration of the International Nuclear Non-Proliferation and Cooperation Center, called INC, this month. The new center will serve as a cooperative framework to enhance global nuclear non-proliferation. Regarding the stable procurement of the nuclear fuel, it is necessary to expand capacities of the enrichment facilities. At present, Korea is actively supporting the efforts of leading fuel suppliers in the Western world, including the United States. The goal is to ensure stable supply of nuclear fuel through long-term contracts, offtake agreements, and potential direct investment. To promote further development and deployment of SMRs, it is essential to introduce new international frameworks and the corresponding verification mechanisms for the safeguards and export control of the Gen 4 SMRs. the Republic of Korea will be closely tied up with the United States national laboratories, such as Sandia National Laboratories, on this mission. It will be a great opportunity to jointly develop the AI technologies, robotics, cybersecurity, and physical protection for SMRs throughout the cooperation programs. In addressing the climate change and enhancing energy security, expanding the use of nuclear energy is more necessary than ever. However, with the resurgence of East-West tensions reminiscent of the Cold War, concerns over nuclear expansion due to increased nuclear power usage are also rising. For the sustainable development of the nuclear industry in the 21st century, it is crucial that all the participating countries cooperate and join efforts. Let's work together for the sustainable development of the global nuclear industry. And Korea will take the part of this effort. With that, I conclude my speech. Thank you very much.
Let's give our speakers one more round of applause, possibly. There was clearly an emphasis on the expansion of nuclear energy as a key factor to the changing landscape of nuclear material security and management. The extent and nature of that expansion, like where will it go, what will it look like, is really going to drive the impact. So the first set of questions relates to our vision or our understanding of how we think nuclear might expand around the globe. And I think I'll start with Stefan and ask you to speak a little bit more about the future of nuclear deployments in the EU.
Thank you very much. For nuclear deployments in the EU, I can see at least one strong political trend, and this is also trying to become independent of Russian supply. This is something that we have issued as European Commission in the Repower EU package, and that was mainly targeted at other sources of energy supply, but will become more important also for looking into where, especially in the VVER reactors in Eastern Europe, we are having still Russian supply and not yet good alternatives inside everywhere. However, in the long term, we will also see that the energy demand will require member states to think about what kind of energy and climate plans they would submit. The energy and climate plans of all, the final plans of all member states were due end of June. But as always in the EU, not everybody was on track and not everybody has supplied the member states' final plans on time. We have seen the plans, but we do not have individual targets for the member states. And therefore, we must summarize and aggregate to see what's going to happen at the European level and what we need to do politically at the European level to advance. We cannot push member states to use particular energy sources, but it's quite obvious that some member states like Poland have well understood that they have a lot of coal, which is not really climate friendly. They don't have wind, they don't have solar, and they do not have hydro. So choices are limited. And the national governments need to get their head around it, because at the end of the day, they cannot submit a national climate and energy plan that is 100% fossil. So there needs to be a way to get this channeled and orchestrated, and nuclear is a part of it. With the technology now becoming, let's say, a little bit more concrete, and SMRs are not really tangible yet, and the concepts also for safeguards yet need to be developed. But there is an international community working on them, and all of a sudden, for some member states, there is appearing another alternative what to feed into their plans, and the plans are going up to 2050. So there is enough time also for SMRs if they are around early enough. There used to be another European stream that says all of this nuclear will be too late, because by the year 2035, we will already have deployed so many renewable resources that we will not need it anymore, and it's expensive anyway. Unfortunately, fortunately, however perspective you would like to prefer, the progress of installing also renewable energy has not been as fast as originally expected, because also this has strong permissions in mind. And if you're now coming to the idea how you would accelerate energy production, installation, you come back to the Net Zero Industrial Act, where a central part is the simplification of permissions in the member states. And all of a sudden, after the debate with the Council and the Parliament, nuclear is also in there. And this is brand new. So we might even see, derived from the European level Net Zero Industrial Act, member states being pushed to also implement this locally under their responsibility for simplifying and accelerating permission for nuclear. And this is a brand new development. So I can see that several streams are coming together here. There were high hopes on renewables, paid out only partially, but it's advancing well. But it will not alone suffice to let us meet the overall aggregated objectives for 2030 and 2040. And by the way, not for 2050. So if we take nuclear out of the equation, we will not make it. But we could perhaps accelerate for getting whatever technology in. And in the European Commission's President's political guidelines, you will also find the word technology neutral. And this is now the new approach, where I understand that it's an open field for competition for clean energy sources and not for green energy sources anymore.
Thank you. I'm going to pivot or pick up on one of the comments you made about narrowing the field of technologies that might be deployed. And I'm going to ask Ulla to maybe comment on what she thinks are the most important, or the concepts around new nuclear that her teams are focusing on in the safeguards and security aspects. As we've said, there's just a lot of different technologies out there. How do you know where to start? And since you're the most technical person on the roll, maybe you have some thoughts on that.
Yeah, so looking at new capabilities which are offered by the digitalization, for example, the combination of virtual and augmented reality, for example, for supporting on-site inspections, but also the use of robotics for automating inspections and to assist inspectors on site. And it was mentioned that next year the Finnish repository will go live, and there the resident inspector is something where we have been very concretely, together with our colleagues from Euratom Inspectorate, but also the Finnish authorities working together, because this is really something where you can make a difference, and also to support directly that, because it would also be a very good message. The repository going live is also helping then the messaging about nuclear, because this is one of the discussions you have, what is happening to the repository, and being able to have a demonstration is something very useful, and also being able to demonstrate that it's safely, that it's safeguarded is very important. Other parts, the innovative modeling skills is something we are looking at, and particularly NDA for used nuclear fuel characterization with new computational approaches to be used for tomography and to deal with spent fuel canister re-verification challenges. And we think the whole modeling, we really want to compile our different nuclear modeling capacities in JRC, bringing them together to work on a nuclear modeling hub, because we think that is something which can then also help us to drive faster forward. Deployment of machine learning and their development in combined laser and camera technologies. And then, of course, looking at the data processing and the analysis with the use of AI, but also using AI in forensics and in different verification techniques. These were just some very concrete examples we are working on.
Thank you very much. One of the other scenarios that we're concerned about is the newcomer countries and the collaborations that partnerships we're going to need to build in order to enable them to successfully securely and in a safeguarded way, deploy new nuclear. And Dr. Wang, I was wondering if you wanted to comment on some of the more specifics about your new cooperation center that you're standing up, some activities that you're anticipating or that you already have underway to help countries who are proposing to add nuclear to their.
Yes, as I told before, the KHNP, Korea Hydro and Nuclear Power Company, is running a graduate school, has been running a graduate school. From that school, we have more than 500 international students graduated from that school. And those students were from overseas for the last 15 years. And the institute we just established will be accepting international scholars about nuclear non-proliferation technologies, and as well as nuclear non-proliferation policies and nuclear non-proliferation related framework builders. Yeah. And also that center will educate the students from overseas countries. So it will last, this kind of effort will lead many supports from non-proliferation, advanced countries like United States. So we try to contact with U.S. national laboratories like Sandia or Oak Ridge, and also Euratom, we will JRC, and we will be contacting. Yeah. We need your help. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing your views on expansion of nuclear energy, where we can make some progress on safeguards and security of facilities that are being developed. I did want to turn back to the concept of partnerships, especially in an era of global tension, and in terms of what we can be doing to, or how our partnerships or engagements with stakeholders might evolve over time. And I'm wondering, Corey, if you would comment on the evolution of the partnerships in the current climate.
Sure. I think, look, we all know that nuclear is different in a lot of key ways. And when we think about nuclear partnerships on the civil nuclear energy side, and not just electricity generation, but the broad scope, we know that that comes with bigger questions. And part of it is because nuclear trade is a strategic relationship in a lot of the ways that we traditionally would think about other kinds of strategic trade. And part of that is because it lasts for decades. The relationship has to last for decades for the life cycle of these facilities, because of the scope, because of the dual use nature. But more and more, it's also because just energy is a strategic dynamic now. We're seeing this, how energy being targeted in war, right? Energy infrastructure being targeted in war. Obviously the conversion of civil nuclear power plants to targets is an extremely distressing one, and it's put the IAEA in a difficult position. It's put the energy infrastructure in a difficult position, and frankly, it's put the operators and the people who rely on the electricity generated by the plants in Ukraine into a tragic position. And so I think that when we think about the future of nuclear energy, Dr. Wang mentioned kind of creating trusted supply chains. I think that's extremely important. We have to think about how we as a collective can actually combat what China and Russia can do individually. We can't beat Russia at its own game when it comes to civil nuclear trade. We can't offer the full, no country can offer the full range that Russia can offer. We certainly can't offer the financing. One message, I don't know if people have heard this, but if you're not being charged for a service, then you're the product, right? You have to, when with the deals that Russia and to a certain extent China are putting on the table for people to partner with them on nuclear, I hope that those countries recognize what they're really being sold, right? Because they're not just being sold a nuclear power plant, they're being sold a relationship. And it might not be the one they want, and certainly we've seen in Ukraine, it's not going to be the one you can count on when you need to. So this whole dynamic has changed over the last few years. It was already changing, but Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, I think, has really highlighted it. So that's why these partnerships are so important, because they are financial partnerships, they are strategic partnerships, they are supply chain partnerships, and they have to be lasting partnerships. And I think when you look at the Sapporo 5 and the statement that came out of the G7, when you look at the relationship that is possible with countries like Korea, we can develop a counter to Russian and Chinese influence in the nuclear space, and one that's based on responsibility and based on empowerment and based on actual partnership. I like to say that Russia wants weak partners. We want strong partners. And I think that is something that will actually serve the international community in good stead as we go forward. So I think there's a great opportunity. The other thing is it has to be at all levels. This is not about about selling gigawatt scale plants. It's not about just selling electricity generation. It's about the broad range of the peaceful use of nuclear energy. And that's why a lot of our partnerships really start with radiological and radioactive security and sources, and the ability to actually have trusted relationships at the expert level. Because that's, what we want is for people to pick up the phone and call the EU, call Korea, call Japan, call Canada, call the UK, call the United States when they want to have these technical and important conversations. And that starts with those first relationships. So those are the relationships around training and education and capacity building, and which has to be at a meeting of equals and not in a dependent relationship. And I think that's what will serve the broader kind of trusted and responsible nuclear community going forward.
Well, thank you very much. Those were our prepared questions. We want to leave some time for you all in the audience to come to a microphone and ask a question of any or all of our panelists. So at this time, I'm opening the Q&A to the floor. Please state your name and your organization before you say your question, too.
Yes, my name is Nathan Gale. I teach physics at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. And I loved the comment on making nuclear forensics cool. The only movie I know about in which the plot hinges on nuclear forensics is The Sum of All Fears, which I highly recommend. Great Tom Clancy, Jack Ryan movie. And so maybe kind of a fun question would be, what pop culture reference do you think would be cool to show students for nuclear and that sort of thing?
Anybody have one that comes to mind?
Yeah, we just said the coolest thing which comes to in mind is from the latest Oppenheimer film, which, but we don't know whether the young generation finds it so cool. Because, to be honest, maybe we should ask this question more to some of the students sitting here, because I realize what sometimes our generation finds cool is for the others not so cool. Let's be honest. So maybe they have some cooler ideas, particularly because if we look even at the way they are communicating, this is different. And for example, when my daughter says, let's do a Be Real, and I'm, okay, what is this about? So maybe about reels and other things, they might be much more knowledgeable than us. And I think we can only become cool if we work closely with them.
Can I just add, perhaps, I mean, the movie industry has managed to turn every one-time success into a sequel. So, So actually, why not thinking about Oppenheimer or whatever kind of derivative? If it's all about money, it will work. But I got my doubts personally. I would rather go with Ulla saying we need to talk to the young generation to rather understand what they would be interested in, and we need to listen to what they need rather than what we think they need.
I think that's right. The only thing I will add is that I think Oppenheimer is perceived as cool, judging by the amount of people that are trying to take photos at Los Alamos in places they are not supposed to be taking pictures. Instagramming from Los Alamos is not recommended, people. Please pay attention to posted signs. Thank you.
What a great starter question for the audience.
I think mine will be considerably less fun than that. Hi, I'm Zoe Gastelum from Sandia National Laboratories, and I really appreciate everyone's remarks this morning. And it seems like we're in this moment of really great opportunity for nuclear and also change and uncertainty. And not to diminish any of those events, that's been kind of a recurring theme for me that I've seen in INMM since I started coming in 2006, when it was the era of the Global Nuclear Energy Partnership, and then Fukushima derailed things, and the Arab Spring made inspections complicated, and COVID made inspections. So we've had like these kind of waves of challenges and opportunities, all of which are critically important. And I just wonder, what can we as an institute be doing to prepare to better serve the international community, and how can we help in some new and innovative way for this kind of continual cycle of change, which only seems to be the only constant thing we're seeing is, you know, change and disruption. And yeah, so what can we do to be better prepared and help?
Go ahead, Corey.
I'll start. I mean, a couple of things come to mind. One is, I think you're right that we're always in a state of, are we on an up or are down? And I think the key is, how do we use the opportunity of an unfortunate down on the geopolitical side to prepare for the up? I mean, I am sometimes pessimistic in expression because I'm looking at, you know, like what my inbox looks like every day, and it's scary. I mean, I think the world right now is scary to me. But I am by nature an optimist. So what I remember is it does change. And what you've identified is exactly that, right? When we think, when civil nuclear is on a downslope, let's figure out how we can re-incentivize and re-motivate. And that's what's happened with SMRs and microreactors. That's given a new life, a new energy, pun intended, you know, to the nuclear conversation, that the gigawatt scale, you know, reactors with their cost and schedule and grid challenges and, you know, infrastructure and deployment, you know, that felt like a lot. And SMRs and microreactors and, you know, reactors for purposes other than just connectivity to a large scale grid, like that's the positive, right? So we're now on that upslope. In the meantime, the geostrategic environment is in a really difficult place. And I think we have to use that pause to figure out what we want. I mean, I think that the institute, not the institute, the discussions that the institute enables will have a missed opportunity if we have, you know, the same sessions, you know, every year, and you could just swap in the same titles from 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I think that would not be meeting the moment. That would be plugging along, saying, well, this is what we do, right? I think underneath that, you have to be able to say, are we actually talking about things for 2024 and 2025 and 2026 that reflect those changed realities, both the positive and the negative? And I think there are great opportunities, and the time to the attitude, I think, to use a negative moment is not as a retraction but a retrenchment, and figure out what we actually need to be working on going forward.
Thank you for the very relevant question. Nuclear technological development is moving comparably slowly. The world around us is moving a bit faster. And this is good this way. The political development that we have seen over the last 20, 30, 40 years have been continuously coined by crisis. So we had the oil crisis, we had Chernobyl, we had the financial crisis, we had the pandemic, we had Fukushima, Zaporizhia, you name it. And the interesting question for the European side is we need to not lose sight of our final objective, which for us is climate neutrality by 2050. But we had to rethink everything when COVID came about. So the idea was not falling back into old habits just because we have a pandemic, but investing yet more into the acceleration of the pathway towards seizing COVID as an opportunity, because it would kick loose funds that we couldn't even dream about before. So I think what in INMM would also be required is just working along the pathway of continuous development and seizing the opportunity of the moment to just look into how AI could contribute. I've asked yesterday, name me some tangible examples where it would be really applicable to safeguards, not only theoretically. And I'm still on my mission to collect some. So this idea of not swinging around with the mood of the moment, but rather having a good idea where to approach and then tactically move around the obstacles on the way, of which we know more is yet to come. And we will never have 5 years without any crisis everywhere on the globe. I mean, don't be shy, stay resilient, stay flexible, but stay on course.
So, Ulla or Dr. Wang?
Yeah, as I work in nuclear power industry, I have several ideas to keep our nuclear industry evolves and to be stabilized. To work with SMRs, we try to build a model, a simulational model for SMR-based smart net zero city, which was launched in last year in COP28 Dubai, which attracted a lot of people's interest. And also to build up that kind of city model in Korea, we call very large construction companies like Samsung or GS or Daerim. Those companies are very much interested in building up small cities in Middle East area or Southeastern Asian countries. That industry, attracted industries make a force to keep nuclear stable. Yeah. And also another industries includes shipping and shipbuilding. And those large shipbuilders, like there are 3 very large shipbuilders in Korea. All those companies are involved in developing SMRs for nuclear propulsion ship for container movement, or nuclear power generation ship, barge ship, yeah. And also in Korea, by 2040, almost all nuclear fossil fuel plants should be diminished away. Those fossil power companies, they have to look into SMRs. So SMRs can be kind of attraction models to replace fossil fuels. So by attracting many industries and let them invest in their field to accommodate SMRs, then our industry, nuclear industry, may become stabilized, and that may promise our future development. Yeah.
Sorry, I had another, because it connects the two. I mean, I also think we all of us, have to do better at figuring out how to talk to normal people about nuclear. And some of it comes through pop culture and comes through some of those opportunities, and some of it comes through how you talk to your friends and family and your alumni associations and whatever communities you connect to that are not nuclear. And actually, I was watching the Open Championship, the British Open Golf on Sunday morning, and there was this like 60-second commercial for Doosan advertising SMRs. You know, and it's how we have that broader conversation, because we have to be able to capture the imagination of people while also using the core of technical and scientific credibility, but not speaking that language, right? We have to be able to speak this broader language if we want to connect our issues to everything else that's going on.
All right, I think we're very close to the end of our time. I don't see anyone else at a microphone. I'll make a couple of final comments. I heard a campaign, hashtag make nuclear forensics cool, right? And also this idea of maybe a Super Bowl ad for. Thank you very much for your time, and let's thank the panelists again for their wonderful insights. I am tasked with inviting you to enter the coffee break now and view some of the posters during the first poster session. This will be your opportunity to network some more and mingle and visit our exhibitors. Thank you.